Hello, hello, hello. A few people in the chat already front ran me on my introduction. Now I feel weird saying it. But yeah, good evening, good day, good morning to you guys. Like 4 people in the chat are like front running my introduction, and I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? It makes it very fucking weird. Had a little bit of price movement. Honestly, much less than you'd think if you went on social media. But the reason why people are reacting to this so strongly is one, altcoins moved big, and two, we're so close to the ETF that people are on edge. But yeah. Hope all is well, bro. Yeah, I'm doing all right. My waifu's a little bit sick, so we're not gonna run overtime today. Gotta make sure she's fine. But me, I'm doing okay. Very little sleep, but that's become the norm, really. So anyway, a few things to talk about, so we'll get into it in a bit. How's the little duck? She's doing amazing. She's been. I mean, I just saw her like a minute ago rolling around in the bed, so she's having the time of her life. But yeah. Anyway, before we start the show, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring it. I really appreciate their support. You should go check them out. Links are in the description. Yeah, they're good partners to have, and we're quite happy with them. Did you say wife? I mean, whatever you want to call the mother of your children. Wish her feel well ASAP. Yeah, same here. Hope it doesn't get better. Hope it doesn't get worse. I mean, we hope it gets better. Anyway, she's struggling. Let's talk markets. Yeah, let's talk markets. So high time frame, the monthly, struggling a little bit. We're kind of turning this into a somewhat red candle in the moment, which is not the end of the world, honestly. Monthly time frame, as I said before in previous shows, it's like the chart is good as long as you hold this area. Now, the problem is the ETF is coming, and the ETF is going to have some wild price action. So I could see us wick below it quite a bit, even if it's going to hold. So that's something that you have to be prepared for, just in general. Like, let's say this month turns red, like the ETF comes around, maybe we go higher, maybe we don't. It goes down like this. Next month could wick down. I still think it probably would hold this support on a closing basis, but that's something to be seen, right? So just because I say like, hey, this is very strong support doesn't mean we cannot go below it. It just means it's quite tough to close below it. And the next close is in 28 days. So it's a lot of time where we could trade elsewhere. But yeah, the monthly still looks decent. Should close above, or like should keep closing above 35k, and that maintains, like I'll maintain that view. And on the weekly time frame, we had a little bit of a breakout that got completely stuffed. That's not necessarily the best look, right? When you have like a consolidation like this, you'd expect like, hey, it goes up, it breaks out, especially with the ETF coming. We did the opposite. Now we just had a spike up, sold off, now back to the weekly open. Like that's not great, but also this is still a very bullish chart. It's just support is very far away. So whoever is bullish has to be able to stomach quite a bit. I think on the weekly time frame, a retest of the range low wouldn't be a big shock, and that is 32k. And I think a lot of people wouldn't be ready for that. So that's one thing, but also we're not really anywhere, like you can draw resistances, and we have one in Technical Roundup, which is the newsletter that Cred and I write together. trletter.com for the people that would be interested. It's free. We have a resistance kind of like the mid-range ish right here, and that's been doing quite well. But for me personally, I think 30k support, 60k resistance. You just kind of have to roll the dice, whichever is going to be hit first. For me, I think 32k is more likely than 60, but I can understand differing views as well. And on the daily time frame, we had a little bit of a false breakout. We tested this resistance, this 44k resistance, a bunch of times, and I kind of said like, hey, this is getting like too many times. At some point, that's gonna break. It did, broke out, and then immediately sold off. A lot of people attribute this to the fact that we had like some random guy from a random fund say that he thinks the ETFs are gonna get all denied, and that just kind of turned into whatever, this candle. To me, I think that's a little bit bullshit. The market was very, very over-levered already, and I was just looking for an excuse to sell off. And we got that excuse, and the market sold off, and now we're here. Generally, that's the first time in a long time that the daily chart has been bearish. Like this is, to me, clearly more bearish. As long like if we get a reversal today above 44k, it's a bullish close. But assuming that we close here at 42.4, that's a bearish close. So that's the first time in a long time that the daily would flip bearish. We still have the weekly and the monthly being quite bullish, so it's not like the end of the world, but this is something to note. Now, all of that is relatively meaningless, given that the ETF is coming in the next few days. A lot of people seem to think, like the smart ETF people seem to think it's going to come in before the 10th of January. So that's a week from now, like in the next 7 days, at any point we can get the ETF. Now we can also get a denial, of course, but I think it's still quite unlikely that that's going to be the case. We can talk about what happens if we get a denial. It's pretty simple to me. I think, would undercut at least this consolidation, if not the origin of the move, which is down here. So if the ETF gets denied, basically the market structure wasn't really like too favorable down here. And the reason, in my opinion, why it went up from 27, 28 was basically almost entirely the ETF, right? So if we get a denial, you would think we would return kind of to that area. So that's like the worst case. Denial takes us to 27, 28. An approval, a lot of people would be like, hey, an approval has to be very bullish. I would argue, basically, we priced in a lot of it, but short term could lead to some upside. But I think if you get an approval, you would get a spike upwards, possibly. I'm not even that sure about that anymore, but you could get a spike upwards that a lot of people would sell into, right? And I think that would take us a little bit lower as well, or at least, and this would be best case in my head, lead to ranging, right? Just kind of go down towards 38 range, crawl back above 40, and that would be a bullish outcome. Now, obviously, also possible that it just goes up after the ETF comes around, but yeah, I'm not really in that camp. It's possible. Nothing's impossible, and I mean, in trading, you never know. But that seems like the unlikeliest outcome, in my opinion. So yeah, that's that. That's the speed run of Bitcoin. Monthly time frame, good. Support at 35. Weekly time frame, good. Support at 32, 33. And daily, bad. And really on the daily, there's no support if anything 38k, but I don't like that one. Every way is possible, says DonAlt. I mean, of course. Like, people are always like, hey, but you have to tell me where it goes. Like, nobody fucking knows. You can kind of judge the odds, but everything's possible. Like, this shit could go up, could go down, whatever. You just kind of have to pick points where you think it's much more likely to go up or much more likely to go down. So, for example, right now, like, I was very bullish at 16k, and I was very, very certain that it's much more likely to go up than down. If I was still in the bearish gang that shorts stuff, I'd be the opposite, basically. I'd be like, I'm quite certain that this goes down, and then I'll be looking for spikes to sell into, right? So it's basically the inverse of where I was at 16k. Now I'd be like, hey, I think it's much more likely to go down than up. So I try to look for shorts. Now, obviously, I don't short anymore. I don't really care if I miss a short entry. I do care if I miss a long entry, right? So that's not what I'm doing anymore. And in general, like, it seems like a waste of time in a market that just triples from nothing, 16k to almost 50k in a year. Why the fuck would I be shorting any of that? Like, I don't see the point. So for me, even though I think it's more likely to go down than up, I'm just not interested in the short side. Where would you see the approval pump topping out? It depends on where we are before. Like, if we're trading at 38k, right, when the approval comes out, let's say we nuke, I think you would get a pump towards 42.5-ish, like where we are right now, before it goes down. If we are trading above 44, right? So if we're trading above 44 when the approval comes out, you'd think like that could lead to like a pop towards like 47, 48 maybe. Before I would think that it starts topping out. If we're trading even lower than that, like if it completely nukes, which this I think just not going to happen, then I think you could get a massive rally that like goes back down again. But those would be like, that's kind of how I treat it, depending on where you start. Or like depending on where you are when the approval hits, it's going to play out differently, obviously. So the answer is like, it depends, which, yeah. For someone with no position and bullish midterm 3 to 6 months thesis, what's a good entry? I mean, if you're bullish for the next 3 to 6 months, I mean, then just buy. Like, that seems pretty straightforward. Then any entry is good if you're bullish and think price is gonna go higher. Like, if I was like, price is gonna be higher in 3 months from where it is right now, there's no way that I would have sold my position. That'd just be like, hey, I mean, whatever. Like, then I just need to wait 3 months. In my opinion, in 3 months, we're gonna trade lower than where we are right now. And in 6 months might be even lower than that, and then maybe it goes up. So that's kind of like, it depends. Like, if you're bullish in 3 months, like if you think the price is going to be high, it depends. Like, if you're bullish in 3 months because then the ETF thing is going to be through and we might be trading lower, it's one thing. Then I think 32k is a really good level to buy. 32 for the more conservative people, 35 for the more aggressive people. Like, those levels are really good supports. But if you think price is going to be higher than it is right now in 3 to 6 months, then you just buy. So to answer the title, right? Because I wrote in that there's doubt about the ETF. That doubt that has been kind of spreading around is just one random guy just giving his opinion without any additional information as far as I know. So I wouldn't take it too serious. I think that's more bullshit than not. Now, it could get denied, but I don't think there's anything in that comment of his. So was ETF denied or no ruling yet? No ruling. There's no denial or approval. It's just one random guy said he thinks it's all getting denied, and then the market nuked. So Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't take that too serious. Usually I like to buy these kind of things, like when there's bullshit news and that nukes the price. I think that's usually a good way to buy. But also, like, I mean, we had bullshit news here um, that started this entire rally. Would be quite ironic if we ended the rally by bullshit news as well. I just don't know. I don't think the whole ETF denied thing has much merit. Is all I'm saying. What should get delayed? Meaning BlackRock can swoop up all Bitcoin the next macro low. As far as I know, and I don't quote me on this because I know very little about this, they cannot delay it. They have to make a decision. Is this random guy showing us how small the exit door is so people who haven't taken profits yet? Pretty much exactly what my argument is. Like, the entire market nuked because one random guy said something, and some of I mean, every single market, obviously, in the crypto space, basically had zero liquidity on the nuke. Like, there was nothing. Like, if you had a position and you wanted to close it, I'm sure a lot of, like, at least a few people of you guys have had positions. There was really no liquidity to take. On the nuke, on altcoins pairs especially. Like, it was just basically like a void, and then you get filled 10, 15, 20% lower. Which is obviously not the best. That is something in crypto that happens from time to time. Like, you get, like, Bitcoin didn't even go down that far. Like, it looks brutal on the 1 hour, but realistically, like, what happened, right, is we had a move up, and we went back to where that move up started. Like, it's not like this is like completely crazy. It's basically just like the good old bar pattern where you have a move up and then you consolidate and then you move back down. Like, this happened all the time back in the days. And we went all the way back to where we started, right? This is not like we're making new lows or anything. It's trading where it started. And some of these altcoins, like, look at AVAX, just wicked all the way to 33. Quite funny because Capo longed this one right before the nuke. But not only those, like, a lot of these, Lido, look at that wick. Some of the more bullish ones went straight back up, but are now kind of struggling as well. And then Litecoin, look at that beauty. Keeps on making new lows. Beautiful. But yeah, liquidity just basically disappeared, and that's a scary thing if you're in bigger positions. So you can catch wicks in these conditions. Everyone is on edge because I think it's pretty well understood that this could be like a major sell the news event, but also a lot of people are like, this is gonna be a buy the news event. So you have like both sides, but everyone's like a little bit unsure about where this thing is gonna go. And then you get these kind of candles where people freak the fuck out. And I think there's going to be another one on ETF day like that. Don, can you explain how you would have traded the last few days on the lower time frames? I don't know if it's hindsight. I mean, so like if I look at this chart, right? And I mean, I didn't trade any of this, so literally doesn't really matter what I'm saying, right? But how I look at this, right? We had a resistance here, we broke down, we consolidated below it, ran back into it once, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever. Like, that's a lot of times. So the moment you start going back up, you will have to assume that you're gonna break that resistance, and that's what we did here. And then you just kind of have to like basically take a guess whether this is gonna stick or not. My gut feeling and my like how I trade this, I would have not held a long position into this just based on the fact that I know the ETF is coming, I know fuckery is coming. So there's like in this market you cannot trust anything right now, like in this kind of new situation, right? So you get something, you're happy to take it, and then you get out and then it nuked. So like for me, The resistance was tested too many times, so it makes sense to kind of break it. But also that breakout, given the situation that we're in right now, is very untrustworthy, and that's how it played out. Now, I didn't call or trade any of this, so take it with a grain of salt. It's all hindsight, but that's kind of how I think about markets in general. That's kind of how I've been talking about all of these for a while, right? Like the more often you test the resistance like that, the more likely it is to break. And then high time frame wise, just have to take a little bit of context, right? And the context is pretty clear. Like you have a bunch of people very, very uncertain where the market is going to go. And also, and this is something that obviously doesn't make it easier for Bitcoin to stick these breakouts, the S&P has been taking a beating. Now, obviously, that comes after up-only mode, but I think, that obviously doesn't really help. So that's kind of how I look at this thing, but who the fuck knows at the end of the day. Went bullish on ETH. Yeah, we can talk about ETH. So ETH hit our trend line and bounced. And I was a little bit hopeful for a little bit. I was like, at least you're not a retard if you bought and are betting on ETH BTC outperformance. Now that has been truly and utterly been destroyed. Like that's a terrible looking chart now. Just basically people taking any exit they can get on ETH BTC. It's not looking great. And especially given we now tested the trend line before, if you go back to it, it's much more likely to break. So if it tests one more time and goes up immediately, cool. But if it does something like this where it just keeps on going, that's more likely to break than not. And then you're in deep shit, because in my opinion, no supports from like all the way back there really matter too much. If anything, the monthly matters, and this is the monthly chart right now, and that's not a good look. So to answer the question, I think after like the ETH trade only really makes sense if Bitcoin goes up after the ETF approval. Now, if Bitcoin gets a denial on the on the ETF front, ETH BTC I think will just keep going down. But if we get an approval and Bitcoin price goes up, then you can start rotating into ETH, because that's the only way this trade makes sense. It's basically, if you're betting on ETH, you're betting on the possibility that other people are going to bet on ETH because they will think that now that the Bitcoin ETF has gone through, an ETH ETF is next. That's the only narrative that I can see for ETH. So what you need for that narrative to work is the Bitcoin ETF, 1, to be approved, and 2, to lead to higher prices, right? Because if the Bitcoin ETF is a sell the news event, it makes 0 sense to bet on ETH BTC outperformance, because you'd be like, hey, the Bitcoin ETF got approved and price went down. Why the fuck would I want to be betting on ETH into an ETF if the prices go down after such a thing? So that's the only way that I can make sense of this of this positioning. So it makes sense to just wait for that. And it's something that I've been saying for months now, and people have been saying, yeah, but you're wrong for months now, and look at this chart. It's been the worst trade in crypto. Like, I'm not kidding. I think it's been one of the worst coins to trade in the last 6 months, if not more. And that's not only because it went down, but because everything else went up. Look at Solana, look at AVAX, Doge didn't do so well, but even Doge did, I think, better than ETH. Let's actually check that. I'm curious. Doge BTC versus ETH BTC. Let's check it. Roughly equal, right? And that piece of shit didn't do anything. Litecoin basically, Litecoin probably underperformed ETH, but still, like, those are the shittiest of shit coins that no one cares about, right? Like, everything else had a little bit of a bounce, had a little bit of good price action, at least for a while. ETH has not. So in my opinion, ETH's been the worst trade, or like the worst trade just based on the fact that this is actually something people trade, right? In the recent history. ETH betas massively overperformed against ETH. Yeah. It's just how it is. I made my thesis pretty clear early on that I thought ETH was a dumb trade because it was not dumb enough. Like, smart people are going to buy Bitcoin because Bitcoin ETF. Dumb people are going to buy altcoins because Bitcoin ETF. Like, it makes no sense, but like it's just how you think if you're just like a shitcoin holder through and through. So like the smart people make money with Bitcoin, the dumb people make money with shitcoins, and the people that are just here with their 100 IQ that no one cares about, they're trading ETH and they're making zero as usual. That's the worst logic I've ever heard. Are you fucking dumb? Like, this is literally the most obvious logic, and it's been tracking 100%. That's how the market has been moving. Bro said if Bitcoin prices go down, ETH will go down. Okay, so you are confirmed retarded. Because, I mean, that's literally how it's been for the last 10 years. Damn, we have an idiot in the chat. I shall just remove nonsensical dumb shit. But, yeah. Bro, you ain't have a clue. I bought Lido at 2:30. I can't reach high now and you're still streaming. Dude, what does Lido have to do with ETH? Like, if ETH is the dumb trade, what I mean, I fail to understand how you guys think. If I say, don't trade ETH, trade something dumber, like Lido, for example, and you're like, hey, I made money with Lido, so you're wrong. I'm like, what? Like, what? Whatever. I'll just ignore it because that's just fucking dumb. So yeah, that's a little bit of a shitty trade, has been. On the monthly front on ETHUSD, this is something that we kept talking about. I was like last stream or the one before, I was like, I could see us test monthly resistance. We closed at it actually. So that's not necessarily the best, just based on the fact that it ran towards monthly resistance. It's now getting rejected there. So like if you're bearish, this is the best argument that you're gonna get on ETHUSD, right? And that is with having ETH BTC in your corner. The only reason why it's pretty hard to be bearish ETH this far down is because the ETF is gonna come, the ETF decision, pretty much in a week, and then you could start seeing ETH flows. But honestly, I still think, like, just looking at these charts, like, this could be pretty early on in the ETH bearish cycle. You have a bearish retest here on ETH BTC on the monthly. You have a bearish retest here on ETHUSD on the monthly. So, like, if you want to be bearish something, ETH doesn't look that bad to be bearish on. But narrative-wise, it's a little bit of a struggle. Do you think ARB is dumb enough? I like on the altcoin front, like that's something that you have to pick yourself. This cycle, I've just been like, fuck it. I don't have the time. I have a little family now, so I've not been having the time to do the altcoins justice. Are you bullish crypto as a whole in the next 6 months? No. I think it's very likely that we're at 40K or below it in the next 6 months for the most part. And I could be completely wrong on that, but that's kind of where I think we're going to be, like between 30 and 40K, I think is, to me, quite likely in 6 months. But I could be completely wrong. I don't have, like, when I say this, like, that's where I think we're going to be. But if we're going to be at 50 or 60, I'm going to trade a completely different way. So these kind of predictions don't really mean anything, because at the end of the day, like, you look at the price action, you change your mind. That's why I said, like, it depends on, like, the ETF price action depends on where we're gonna trade once we get there. Like I cannot just be like, hey, the ETF is gonna come out and we're gonna like spike upwards to 44, and then we're gonna sell off, and then we're gonna bounce, and then we're gonna sell off again. Like that's like I've seen a bunch of people draw like that, but at the end of the day, it's completely and utterly useless. I just think there's gonna be a spike upwards from wherever we are on the announcement that will pretty much, in my opinion, immediately get faded. And then you get a nuke, and then either you get sideways, so like something like this, or you just get a nuke. That's kind of my feeling. But if price action doesn't confirm that, I'll completely disregard that idea and go with a new one. For real, dude is a Bitcoin boomer? Yeah, I mean, somewhat. Still making more profit than most people, so it's okay. I mean, you make your 5x, I make my 2x. Depending on position size, I have more fun than you do. Do you trade futures? If not, why? I don't, because in my jurisdiction, futures not really a thing, so I'm not allowed to. Assuming I'm more bullish on SOL than ETH, what are good levels to rotate? You want to rotate from ETH to SOL now. I mean, that's such a wild thing. Like, why did you not rotate earlier? Like, this is the SOL ETH pair, okay? Like, it's literally at all-time high. Like, where is a good place to rotate? I mean, it was like weeks and weeks ago was down here, or if anything on the way up. Here it seems very, very dumb to me. Now it could work out, but if I had to make a bet on Solana or ETH, I would make a bet on ETH, and I fucking hate ETH right now. So maybe I'm just bearish altcoins now. I don't know, but like Solana tested monthly resistance. I think that there's a good chance this goes lower. And if the entire altcoin market goes lower, Solana is going to go much lower than ETH. So I don't know. I find that like a little bit late. And sometimes, like, yeah, you might be getting a little bit more price action your way. But buying into something like this, especially on a ratio like that, it just seems very, very bad. Like you could have done that like any month in the last year, and that would have been a decent trade, even if it was just last month. But right now it seems pretty late. It's hard not to be bullish on ETH when everyone is converting their SOL. When everyone is converting theirs to SOL after 15x. Yeah, I mean, this is just wild to me. Like this literally, this literally ran 400%. It's not the 15x the guy said, but it's quite a run. I mean, I don't know. It's not like Solana is fundamentally more sound than it was a month ago. Like, where is this all coming from? Like, where is this hype coming from? Like, I don't understand. You look at this and you're like, I want to convert. Like, this is all made up internet money, right? And they don't really do shit anyway right now. So if you want to convert your SOL into ETH, I do it cheap, in my opinion. Don't, like, I don't see the point. Remember a while ago when he was bearish and we ripped? I was bullish from here to here. And I think, and I mean, I could be completely wrong on this, but I think that like I was bullish, I think like somewhere here, and people got to buy a little bit below me. And I think anyone that gets to sell above me is going to be very happy in 3 months. and it's gonna look a little bit dumb on the other side. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not really bearish. I just don't want to be holding into news events. I'm not short anything. I just think if you're this late to a narrative like the Bitcoin ETF narrative, you're at risk of getting wrecked. And I could see this run quite a bit higher and then pull back the usual, and this is something that we've done time and time again, and I can go through history to show this. 40% retrace, 40% retrace, 30%, 40, 40. Then we had here a 70%, this one, 50. I can show you this throughout the entire history of crypto. These kind of retraces of 40 to 50% are some of the most common thing that you will see in Bitcoin's history. So if we start rallying because of the Bitcoin ETF narrative, whatever, and keep going up, I am pretty damn certain that I'm going to get a 30 to 40% retrace thing going, even if it is from 60K. And I really don't care. It doesn't even have to go below my exit. As long as I get a decent enough pullback, I'm more than happy to jump back in. If we go to 100K and then pull back 40%, right? I think that's going to be a good buy. I don't care that I sold near 40K and have to buy back at 60 because I'm a trader. I don't care. So in your mind, this news cycle is volatility, so it's better to stay out in fiat and be prepared to catch low prices. In my opinion, this news cycle is just unpredictable, and you can, if you have conviction in where it's gonna go, bet on it. I don't. So I literally, anyone could trade this as well as I can, and I don't like that. I don't want to be trading in a situation where I'm just as good as everyone else, because then to me that's trading with betting on luck, and I want to bet on luck. Trading is a bunch of luck, yes, but it's also you have to find your edges, and I don't have none here. I'm not good at trading news like this, or at least not better than anyone out there. So I'm why would I be risking my money on something where I know that I'm not better than everyone else? It's not how I like to play. I like to keep my money and then put it in when I know that I have a leg up on other people. So yeah, to me it doesn't really matter. These kind of opportunities come around every couple of years, and these 40% retraces 30, 40, 20, 30, 40% come around every other month or so, and those are the time frames that I'm trading anyway, so it's not like I'm waiting long. That's at least how I look at it. I diversify, at least leave a little bit in the market. If I would have took out profit or got bearish when you did, I'd lose out on 100K plus. I mean, yeah, that's why you make your own decisions. If I didn't turn bearish here and was bearish all the way down, I would have lost millions. What kind of argument is that? I trade the same way no matter where the price is at. And you don't have to trade the same way I trade, which is pretty straightforward, right? Because everyone trades their own fucking money. So yeah, I don't get these kind of oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. I mean, in hindsight, I should have bought the Pico wick down here and sold the Pico wick up here, bought down here and sold up here. But that's not how trading works. if you wanted to buy Say today on Bitcoin pair, would you have caught that wick down? My bid was 20% lower. You should have read Technical Roundup. Like, Cred came to me yesterday and he was like, "Hey, let's write about Say, because that's the coin that's hot." And he was like how, like, where would you want to be buying this thing? And we both agreed that this was the area to buy 50. I mean, it's actually we had it on. We had it mapped out on Binance a little bit better. And I'm pretty sure some of the Technical Roundup readers, because I'm not trading right now and I don't trade altcoins generally, but he was like, just structurally wise, where would you buy this? And I was like 50 down here to 50 whatever up here. And we put it in the newsletter, and that's exactly where the thing bottomed. So trletter.com for the people that are not subscribed. For the people that are, you can back me up on this. This is literally the only support that we had on that chart, or like the only one where we said it's worth buying, and that's exactly what happened. Don, let's say hypothetically you are admittedly not a trader and have a sub 30 sold spot back. Can stomach downside with cash on hand to add more if turbo nuke? Is it retarded to just log off till 2025? No, if you're just an investor, like, why the fuck do you even care? Like, if you think Solana is gonna go up, I mean, just ignore price. Like, 30 is a good entry, and at the end of the day, like, if you're a believer, better to hold than to just do dumb shit. Like, I trade the way that I trade because I'm a trader, and you need to know what you are. Like, if you're an investor, don't listen to traders telling you that you need to sell this and that. Like, just do what you think is right and trade, like, or like use your money the way you like, depending on what you are. Like, if you're an investor, you don't do the same trades as a trader. Cred called the top yesterday. Yep, he did. This chat makes me want to sell. Yeah, I mean, the chat is quite retarded today, not gonna lie. Like, most of the people, to be fair, most of the people in the chat, good people. I've seen a lot of you guys around over the months, but some of you, phew. So that was the newsletter yesterday, and the reasoning for it, right? And why I was like, hey, if you want to buy this thing, this is the only place you can buy it. Is basically because, I mean, this is going parabolic, right? This is pretty straightforward to see. Anyone should be able to kind of spot that this is going parabolic, right? Now, when something goes parabolic, like, a lot of people would be saying, hey, don't buy this, it's parabolic, but that's not necessarily right. Because you make a shitload of money on these parabolic moves, right? This basically doubled today. On a terrible day, this basically doubled, right? But what cannot happen when you're going parabolic is, like, price moves up like this and makes higher and higher supports, and this is something that you can see on this chart. And one thing that it can absolutely not do is undercut these supports, right? Because that breaks the parabolic move, and then you kind of shit out of luck. So basically what you do on these kind of moves is you look for decent support, the closest to price on, like, a daily. I wouldn't do this on the weekly because this barely has any history. You look for the support and you're like, if it hits that support, that's the area where I want to buy. Or if you just buy into momentum, right? Like, you can just buy into this thing while it goes up. You don't even have to wait for it to hit support. But there's one thing that you cannot do, and is if it breaks that support, you have to get the fuck out. Either on a bounce or just straight up. If it nukes that support, it's game over. Because when parabolas break, they usually break quite violently. And then, I mean, it's the typical cheat sheet garbage, right? Market cheat sheet. You make a lower high and then just fuck off. So in this case, I was like, if you're gonna buy, you have to buy here. It's the closest to invalidation that you can get. We wicked there immediately, basically. Like, the newsletter came out 10 in the night yesterday, my time, and we nuked at, like, what? Like, in the morning, 12 hours later or something. So. I cannot believe that on a day like this, I did not correct on say. I was so lucky it kept pumping. Yeah, happy for you, man. I think in general, like, and this is something that happens a lot too. Like the moment it starts testing support, it's actually quite dangerous because, like that's where the trend starts weakening, right? Because this has been a lockout trend, which means there has not really been support retests on the way up. This has been the first one, and that by definition is a sign that there's a little bit of weakness. The response of the reaction, obviously quite nice, but if this shows any weakness, I would try to take profits. But right now it looks quite good. So. No hate there, especially if you got an entry in here. So, is Say a meme coin? I have no idea what the fuck this is. I literally don't know. No idea. Couldn't care less too, honestly. Chat Bonk. I mean, Bonk's just been getting shit on, no? Yeah. Bonk's down 67, 70%. That's fucking wild. It's up so much that the 67%, 70% looks like nothing. I think Bonk is gonna do the Pepe. So I think basically the Bonk has done most of this. It's gonna put in something like this, and then it's gonna go down. That's kind of my view on the bonk thing. I think bonk is pretty much that's done, or there's going to be better trades anyway. But I don't know. I'm not the meme coin master, but just looking at this chart, it looks like it wants to do something like this, and maybe then you start making a range here. That I don't know. That depends on price action, and you go high up. But I think generally, more likely than not, just gonna fade out. Oops, didn't want to do that. More likely than not, it's just this. But yeah, it's roughly at support, but I don't know. Like with these things, they go up until they don't, and then it just keep going down. Like look at Doge. Where is it? Look, they go up until they don't, and then it's fucked. Like these kind of memes. Like that's the thing if you're buying a meme, right? The moment the meme stops going, like that's the whole point. Like a meme is something that picks up steam because other people are kind of interacting with the meme, right? But the moment the meme doesn't get any interaction anymore, the meme by definition is just going to shit. Is dying, right? That's the whole value prop. So basically, you have to go up until sorry about that, until it goes down. When it starts going down, it just keeps going down. Sorry, just joined. Did you buy or not, Don? That's all one needs to know. I didn't buy. I'm gonna buy in March or April at the earliest. One, because I literally am running on like what feels like 2 hours of sleep every night. So I'm not trusting myself to trade. Like I'm not in a condition to trade at all. And two, because I think the whole ETF, like trading into the ETF thing is just dumb. Like that makes no sense to me. I don't feel like I have any edge there. So why would I be risking my money? Like I made enough money to be very happy with this uptrend. If it goes higher, cool. If it goes lower, cool. I get to buy cheaper again. Like I couldn't care less. And buying into the news or anywhere close to the news just seems dumb to me. I'm more happy. Like my thinking is something like this. Okay. Like that's where I think like end of 2024, beginning of 2025, 2026 is where I think we could start exiting this range between 30 and 60K. So that's kind of where my head's at. There's no need to rush. For me. Because I think even if it does this, also possible. But more unlikely. I think 60K is quite unlikely. But yeah, that's kind of where my head is at. I think 32K is very likely to be tested no matter what. So yeah, that's that. Altcoin wise, I mean, it's just looking wild across the board. Some doing really well. Lido, for example, up 12%. That's cool. Those are the ones that you actually want to be trading. The ones that had good bids. Possible that the trend is over with this though. Like there is a chance, and this is something that happens when you have these liquidation cascades, whatever candles. Oftentimes they end trends for at least a little bit. So I think it's gonna get more and more quiet in the next few days, and then we're gonna get the ETF, and it's gonna get wild again. But I think in general, once that is through, it's gonna become quite quiet for a while. What would be your play if you start in crypto right now? I think I would do so. For example, the whole ordinals thing, right? Like you follow a bunch of people on Twitter, you see a bunch of things, and then you're like, okay, something that comes up more often than just once that you don't know anything about, where you're like, okay, what the fuck is this? So for example, the ordinals thing, I saw it quite early. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like people are making shit on Bitcoin. That's interesting. And I just didn't have the energy or time. I mean, this year is quite busy and has been quite busy for me. But that's exactly where I would go. Like the places where people have no idea what it is, no idea how it works. You just jump on those things. You spend your time. You just get obsessed about things that you don't understand, like that, for example. And then you don't have to put much money in it, but you just spend time using and kind of experimenting with the ecosystem. And more often than not, you will either, one, get a huge airdrop, depending, I mean, a huge airdrop for you. Like, let's say you're trading something with $100 or like $200, right? Even if you lose, if it's something new, I'd say more often than not, you will get money back from an airdrop. And more often than not, it's actually going to be quite a big one. And then you're you understand things on a level that a lot of other people won't. Because most people in crypto are actually quite lazy. And they don't really, including me, right? For me, I'm more than happy to just make a little bit of money trading Bitcoin. But that's exactly where I would go. Like where people have very little edge, they don't really know. Right. So, for example, how you have to think about it, right? You go into a game that has very real consequences if you lose, right? And a bunch of people have been playing that game for a long, long time already, and they're quite good, and they have really good characters, right? They're completely geared. They have better skills in almost everything. And it's very hard to compete with them. So you either can go and you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to compete anyway. But then it's going to be very hard to actually survive. Or you can go and be like, hey, in this game, there's a new mini game that came out that no one really understands yet. And I'll just start playing that mini game and going to be the best at that fucking mini game. Dominate the scene in that small ecosystem. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to be as well geared as they are, or at least I'm going to have at least a little bit of a leg up. 10 times easier. I don't understand why people go the leveraged route all the time. There's 100 times better places to start off. And I think those kind of you look for little niches, for stuff that people don't really understand that is still in crypto. And yeah, sometimes it's going to go to zero. Sometimes you're going to get rugged, but you don't put much money in. and then you just go from there. And yeah, that's gonna lead you down the right path eventually. But people don't want to hear that. They just want to hear like, hey, buy this coin, it goes up 100x. That's not how it works though. And there's plenty of things that come out every year where people are like, oh, this is interesting, but whatever. I trade my Bitcoin. And if you're at a certain level, I think you really don't need to care. But when you're starting out, that's how I did it at the start. I was like, I'm not gonna trade Bitcoin, or not leveraged at least. I'm gonna be trading like the shittiest of the shit coins, and play that game before people have figured it out. I played the meme game before it was a game. Like I played Dogecoin before, where people were like, this is just fucking dumb. Like, why would memes be worth anything? Now, memes are the only thing that are worth anything. And yeah, you just have to kind of go outside your comfort zone a little bit. So yeah, that's that. Hope that helps. I think that's a good kind of point to end on. Yeah, don't get liquidated on Bitcoin. And not on the altcoins. We're going into ETF decision mode, so there's gonna be fuck you wicks like this all over the place, both to the up and downside. So don't be dumb. Don't do the high leverage thing, trying to get rich quickly. If you try to get rich, do it by actually learning something, not by just over levering on stupid products. So hope that helps. If not, well, sorry. Big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate it. Like I said at the beginning, go check out the links in the description. Are really good partners. I like where they're headed, and I'm from time to time giving them feedback. Cred is giving them a lot of feedback. I'm giving them from time to time, and I think that is helpful. So yeah. If anything, if you can think of any feedback that you would like to give them, just let me know and I can give it to them also, which is quite nice. Anyway, thanks for coming by. Really appreciate your support and have a nice evening. Bye-bye.